Welcome to Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. My name is Mompoloki Mogobe. Our objective is to enthuse, inspire, energize, and empower entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs of all stripes here in BW and beyond. We do so by inviting these entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs into our makeshift studio. Sometimes we call them to the restaurant, sometimes we go to our studio, and we ask them to share their experiential knowledge, their experiences and their expertise. And we ask them as many questions as we can, aimed at empowering you also as a viewer. Hello dear viewer, dear listener, my name is Mompoloki Lerumo. As always, I'm bringing you enlightening, invigorating and life-changing information. I bring guests who impact your life, who make a difference, even in terms of your bottom line, hopefully. And one such guest is right here on the studio, Miss Otisitswe Tawana-Madziba. I've said it perfectly. Welcome to the studio, madam.
Thank you, Mr. Mogobe, for having me.
Always a privilege to welcome guests like you who are dynamic. I think in a minute, the guests will understand why I'm saying you're dynamic. Can we share your background?
Okay. I'm an economist by profession and training. I have a bachelor's degree in economics and a master's degree in economics. It's a collaborative master's degree that I did with the University of Botswana and School of Monetary Studies in Kenya. And I was specializing in corporate finance and investment and international economics. And because of my passion in finance, even though I'm an economist, my passion is more into finance.
Yes.
So what I did, I founded a social enterprise by the name FinEdu. FinEdu basically means financial education. So the enterprise is focused on empowering young people, particularly children and youth, with financial life skills so that they can grow up and mature into financially independent young adults. And also because of that, I realized that there's also a need to capacitate the parents, because as much as we my idea is to empower children, but the parents have to be involved in the process. So I started a radio program feature. It's called Raising Money Smart Kids.
Which
on
radio?
RB2 FM. It airs every Saturday from 7:30 to 8. I started in January. It's been 8 months now, consistently every Saturday.
Wow, sounds very exciting. I want to go back to your name. There's the hyphens there. Can you just run through your names, and why do you have a hyphenated name?
Okay, that's very interesting because my surname is Tawana Maziba. Tawana Maziba basically is my husband's name. Okay. So we agreed together that I will take his full name. Yes. And so yes.
His first name is Tawana.
Is Tawana.
Oh, Maziba.
Yes. So myself, my surname is Tawana Maziba.
Why did you choose to have his full name in your surname?
Because he wanted me to have Tawana only, but I insisted no. But I have to also carry the surname that you carried into my name, my full name, because I have to show that I'm part of the Maziba family, not only yours. Because for him, it's all about taking the name Tawana forward, because it means a lot to him. So, yeah. You
said you are an economist. How far did you go with that?
Up to the level of master's degree.
Okay.
Yes, I did my bachelor's degree, which is first degree, and then I did second degree.
Which aspect of economics did you specialize in?
Financial economics. Financial economics mostly, particularly corporate finance and investment and international economics.
Okay.
Yes.
So if I was to say, what are you, what is your specialist? What would you tell me? What is your specialty? Like, for instance, what was your dissertation on?
My dissertation was on analyzing the effects of exchange rates on the stock market. So it has always been about the finance, investment. So yes. Okay.
The first discussion point that we want to focus on is on, on social entrepreneurship. What's your definition of social entrepreneurship?
Okay, maybe before I get into the definition of social entrepreneurship, how actually I I encountered social entrepreneurship, because I'm an economist, like I said. But then, so with social entrepreneurship, my idea or my passion was on financial education, especially to young people and individuals when I started. So I wanted to start a business on that side. And then because when I did my master's, I was a BHL Trust scholarship recipient, and together
What's that?
I met.
It's a
It's a
mouthful.
scholarship.
VI?
BIHL. The
Okay.
BIHL is the company. The
Oh,
group. Yes.
okay.
They normally have
The insurance
yes,
entity, yeah.
Yes, they do have a scholarship every year where you have to apply for you to pursue your further studies. So I was one of the lucky one or fortunate recipient of the scholarship to do my master's degree. So I met Mr. Mashaba, Tabiso Mashaba. He was already into social entrepreneurship, and I told him my idea, what I want to do. And then he said, no, why don't you consider social entrepreneurship? You can do that, but still impacting people, but still running it as a business. At the time, I didn't understand what he meant, but then I said, this sounds interesting. So I took time to research about it, to know more about this model, because it's a business model. So what social entrepreneurship is, unlike a traditional model, like a traditional business model, which have a primary objective of profit maximization to the shareholders or to the owners, but with social entrepreneurship, it's like you have twin primary objectives. So we have profit maximization or revenue generation, and then you also have the impact side. So someone will say, why not do CSR or CSI? So this one is different.
What are those things? Some people don't know all those.
Okay, corporate social responsibility or corporate social investment. Why not do a full traditional model, business model, and then still have your CSR? But then with this one, it's because most CSR, they'll allocate 1% of the profit towards the CSR. But with this one, you're not only allocating that minimum, but you are saying it's equally important as profit maximization. So you weigh them at the same level. You're not saying this one is, I'll just allocate just a small amount. So that's what social entrepreneurship is about. It values social value creation or impact more as equally as profit maximization.
And you said after you met this gentleman, I guess he was your mentor, you decided to do it as a business. So explain the business side.
Okay, so with social entrepreneurship model, basically you can do it as an NGO. You can still have the model while operating as an NGO, but you can still operate as a business, but still adopting the social entrepreneurship model. So now, because I registered FinEdu now as a business, so that means that I apply the business principles, I apply the business the business values into the social entrepreneurship model, but at the same time, I'm also impacting lives. So you have revenue generation products. Like, for example, what we have to do, these are revenue generation products. But at the same time, these revenue generation products, they fund the programs that now will be taken to the communities. So in a way, you are not only relying on grants, on sponsorships, because the economy is uncertain. You can't be relying on sponsorship and donors. You have to have something, revenue generating products as part of your model. So for me, that is the model that I found impactful, because personally, it is aligned to my values, which is helping people and making impact and making a difference in other people's lives.
You're right, because there's something disempowering about relying on handouts or going out with an empty bowl and begging.
Exactly.
Isn't it? Is it not disempowering?
It is, because in a way somebody becomes reliant on one you are providing them with. But if like, for example, if you are a business or you are an NGO, you are relying on the donors, you are not finding creative ways on how you can still become sustainable even without that handout. So you see, even the creativity of you as an entrepreneur, if you are going to be relying on donors, it becomes limited. You are actually killing your creative side. But then when you say, I'm a business, I'm going to try as a business as much as I want to make an impact, you think of creative ways. Even during COVID-19, you think of creative ways. What is it that I can still do? Because COVID-19 is here and donors are not coming forth. What do? You can't just sit. You have to do something. So that's what the model is it's all about here.
And we're going to talk about raising smart kids, isn't it? So on that aspect, let's deal with the role of parenting. insofar as raising smart kids is concerned. Can you unpack that for us?
Okay. Like I said, Mr. Mogobe, my passion is more onto financial education, particularly young people. And my focus currently is on children. Why children? Let me start with the question that you asked me, the role of parenting. When we talk on, when we design programs for children, normally we overlook the importance of parents, which are the main stakeholders, because these are the children that are staying with parents full time, even though it may not be full time, but they are relying on their parents for financial support, for social support, for emotional support. So parents have, especially during the early childhood development stage and middle childhood development stage, we're talking about children in preschool, we're talking about children in primary school. So at this stage, the role of parenting is very important, because parents have the highest influence. And this is the time when now a child look up to their parents as their role models. And whatever you say as a parent, it impacts your child's next decision. So at this stage, parents, they have the highest influence. And the attitude that you have towards money or towards life in general, it rubs off on them, because they're always absorbing your attitude, they're always absorbing your language, they're always absorbing what you do. I normally say it's with children, it's not about what you say. You can say don't do this, but if you say don't do this, exactly, if you say don't do this, but you still do the same thing, but to a child it's confusing, or it doesn't even it doesn't make sense to the child, because they want to when you do something, they copy exactly what you do.
They're very good at imitating parents.
Exactly.
Okay. I think that's a good point for you to switch to these products. Take us through this, how it all started, this book that you wrote, Raising Money Smart Kids, and then the Money Smart Planner. Take us through these products, 1, 2, 3, including the piggy bank.
Yes. Okay, so because of the work that we've been doing at FinEdu, and also because of my passion, I realized that there's a need to capacitate.
FinEdu is your company, right?
Yes, FinEdu. There is a need to capacitate the parents, because even with the show that I started in 2020 this year, I realized that a lot of parents will be complaining. How do we start? You say that we should teach our kids money concept, good money habits, but how do I start teaching a child good money habits when myself I'm in a financial problem? Where do I begin? Where do I start? So I realized that there is a need, even though I've been writing this book 2 years back. So it's something that I realized that as much as I'm
You wrote it 2 years back, eh?
Yes, it's something that it was a process. So it's all about researching.
You mean you started writing 2 years ago?
Yes.
When did you launch it?
This past Saturday, 14th August 2021.
We'll talk about that, but let's get back to what you were saying.
Oh, okay.
You're still explaining.
So I realized that parents, they need to be empowered, they need to be capacitated when it comes to money issues, because we can't assume that every parent has a background in finance or background in economics or accounting. Some parents, they struggle when it comes to money issues, but they have that desire to empower their children. Where do they start? So this is more like a reference guide, where to say this is how you can start. It's not like don't do this, do this. It's not. It's basically a guide or a direction, at least to give you a starting point as a parent. How do you start teaching your child money skills?
Let's talk about this one. Money Smart Planner.
Yes. So now, because this book is a practical one, when something is practical, you need to apply it. So now, as a parent, how do you apply these money skills that we've talked about? It's now you have to empower your child, right? So this is it's a planner or a workbook or a journal for a child. It's an all-in-one planner where your child will be able to set goals. Your child will be able to budget, because there's budget template inside. Your child will be able to track their spending. Your child will be able to track their savings goals. Your child will be able to write their own business plan, because at FinEdu we look financial education holistically. We also encourage children to have that entrepreneurial mindset. So this is the all-in-one planner for kids.
Okay.
And then we have the piggy bank. The piggy bank it's a good one for starters. It's a basic starting point for kids, especially when it comes to saving. And the good thing about this is it's durable and it's attractive, as you can see that. And it's easy to use because there is, when you reach your financial goal that you would write there, then you can be able to remove and
hopefully when it's full.
Yeah, hopefully when it's full, yes.
Not when it's just half.
when it's halfway through, exactly. And I always say it requires discipline. So before you even start teaching your child to save, teach them that discipline of waiting, delayed gratification.
But there's something special about how children learn. What can you tell us about the unique way in which children learn as opposed to parents?
Exactly. Children, they have a way of learning, which is basically experimenting. You know, kids are always experimenting. They want to try this, they want to try that at home, with anything, even with money. They just want to try, you know, if you give them money, they want to see this money, is it made of, they throw it in, on the floor, all these funny things. And children, they like exploring, they're explorative by nature, and they like asking questions. I know that with our culture, it's a kind of silence culture. We don't want kids to ask us questions, but with kids, they're always inquisitive. They like asking questions. So as parents, we have to allow kids to ask questions because that's how they learn, and we are supposed to guide them now in providing those answers. And then the other thing about children is that they learn through play. If you teach a child in a structured manner or like a lecture room, they're going to get bored. They want to play. So incorporate money lessons into that play. Make a play store at home. Even with younger kids, you have a play store there. Even with older kids, incorporate play. Play the video games. Find video games that they will learn from them. Do
you have video games talking about money?
No, currently we don't have.
I mean, how will they learn from video games?
Okay, what I'm saying is that find video games that might teach them the concept of money concepts.
Are there such video games? There are. Somewhere, somehow. If you look hard enough, you'll find them.
If you look hard enough, they are there. Because what I found is that there's a game. Unfortunately, we don't have local games. But what I found, there's a game. I forgot the name of the game, but that game, it teaches kids
Maybe
insurance.
You're thinking of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant.
Cash flow quadrant. Yes, there's a cash flow quadrant game, the board game. Yes,
board game.
Yes, and then there's also another game that I forgot the name of the game, but it teaches kids insurance. I've tried playing it, and it's quite interesting for kids, especially for kids in primary school or secondary school. So it's one of the games that you can look up for in the internet. It's also there.
Before we move on to the next subject, this book you wrote, what would you say is the biggest lesson or the biggest, biggest idea that you've introduced to the ecosystem in this book?
Okay.
That you really want us to know about.
Okay. Besides the basic money lessons that we all know, like saving, budgeting, the normal ones, what I've incorporated in this book is the power of the life skills that complement financial success. Because I know that when you talk financial success, we talk about setting goals, we talk about saving, investing, but we overlook the power of life skills. How do they relate to financial success? The basic life skills I'm talking about: delayed gratification, being organized in your own life. Because sometimes we overlook being organized. Because when you teach a child being organized with their toys and all that, you are also teaching them to be organized in their own lives. When you talk budgeting is a way of being organized with your finances. So that is how the life skills that we've incorporated in this, that parents don't overlook the life skills, don't overlook the power of problem solving. When you teach a child problem solving, you are orientating them in such a way that they become solution providers. And today, when you talk entrepreneurship, it's all about finding a problem and providing a solution. So it's no longer the old way of doing things, but it's finding creative ways of solving a problem that we are facing today. So those are some of the things that even today, when you talk about the future of work, not only in business, we're talking about a child who can be innovative, the child who can see a problem and see an opportunity, not a child who will find a problem, I can't do this. We want children who can, how can I do this? Even with my children, I teach them, you can't tell me, I can't do this, mommy. think about how can you...
How old are your kids?
my oldest child is 5 years. And these are the things that sometimes we think that our kids are too young to understand these things. We break them down to a level that they can understand.
So when he says, I can't do this, mommy, you say?
Ask yourself, how can you do this? How can you do this? Find a way of how to do this. After they try so many times, that's when I come in and say, okay, you can do this. I don't just help them. Yes, jump in, because I think as parents sometimes when a child fails to do something, we jump in there. But you are not allowing your child to explore, and you find that kids
to experiment.
To experiment. You find that kids are. They can do a lot of things. Even at such a younger age, they can do a lot of things.
Okay. There's a thing called the money mindset. If you were to explain it to a child, how would you explain it in simple terms?
In simple terms, a money mindset is the belief or your attitude towards money. What do you think about money? If I take money, what is the first thought that you think about this? Because one child will say, I'm going to buy sweets with this. But if we have not instilled that what is money and how to view money, they will never understand that this money can be accumulated and saved and to do something bigger. So if you have not instilled that in them, they will never know. So you have to start instilling a different kind of mindset. And this money mindset, or the beliefs or the attitudes that we have towards money, sometimes the children, they adopt our own money mindset. And if you are a parent and you want to teach your child good money habits, but you are not aware of your own money mindset, you are going to pass down that mindset which is bad or which is poor onto your child. Like for example, when you see a rich person, what is the first thing that you think? Do you think that that person has worked hard, or that person has accumulated whatever they accumulated because of fraudulent things? Those are some of the conversations that we have in our own homes. When you see somebody pushing, when you see somebody succeeding, you think that maybe they are corrupt, maybe they are doing things that are wrong.
That's because of your money mindset.
Exactly, that's because of
what do you say about the average mindset of a Motswana? What's your observation about our money mindset as Botswana?
Our money mindset, I believe it has to change. It has to change because when you look around, it's as Botswana as an economy, you realize that we have become consumers, we have become spenders, but we are not producers. We are not producing. We are not creating
to the level that is necessary.
Exactly. So you realize that it is our mindset. Is it towards spending, or is it towards creating? Is it about producing? So you realize these things, they affect also the economy as it is. What kind of economy are we becoming as a people? Because it all boils down to our individual mindset, our individual spending habits, our individual mindset about entrepreneurship. Do you think entrepreneurship is something that is for certain people? Because I know that certain people who say entrepreneurship is for certain people and I can't do this. You know, the moment you say you can't do it.
And yet everybody should be an entrepreneur.
Exactly.
Everybody is the CEO of Me Incorporated.
Exactly. And when you say you can't do something, you are limiting yourself. You are limiting even, you can pass down to your child and your child have that limiting belief and mindset. And that thing becomes a cycle. It becomes a cycle that is difficult to break.
Okay, and you make a distinction that there's growth mindset and a fixed mindset. Where are we? Can you deal with each one and make us understand where we stand and where we should be driving our children?
I'll start with the fixed mindset. The fixed mindset is the kind of mindset that believes that intelligence and ability, they're fixed or they're predetermined at birth. It's either you have it or you don't have it. So that is the limiting belief. So you believe that you can't, there are certain people that are born to do this, there are certain people who are born to be investors, and there are certain people who are born to be employees. So that is a fixed mindset. But then when you talk about a growth mindset is the one that believes that intelligence and abilities, they can be developed over time. And I've read the book by Ben Carson, Gifted Hands.
I've read it too,
yes,
long ago.
And when you, it's a classic book. So as a parent, if you have read that book, you understand that Ben Carson, when he started, it was believed, even himself, he believed that he was not bright enough. Even the grades that we were bringing home, they spoke something else. But her mother believed in him so much that he said, what is it that I can do for this child? Because I know my child is talented. I know my child is smart. Not because of the grades that he was bringing, but the belief that she had about his son. And then he introduced him to reading. He introduced him to exploring. And that's how the child learned so many things. And he became the best, one of the best students.
Neurosurgeon.
So
but maybe a terrible politician, I'm not sure. But a very good neurosurgeon.
Neurosurgeon, exactly. So you can see that it's about learning, it's about exploring, it's about challenging yourself. So a growth mindset is the mindset that allows you to challenge yourself, to know that you can learn anything and excel at it as long as you challenge yourself, as long as you practice. I believe in the saying that says, practice makes progress. And with
not perfect.
Not perfect, but progress.
Why? Make us understand why you remove the word perfect, which is typical. You put the word progress.
Exactly. Because the moment you focus on perfectionism, the moment you fail after 2-3 trials, you think that you have failed. You think that you can't do this anymore.
So we have to remind ourselves, practice makes progress.
Progress. And progress is about, you look back at where are you, where did you come from? And then you gauge yourself, or you weigh yourself according to that. Not because you want to be perfect, but you want to improve yourself.
And you personally, from my discussion, you broke free from that fixed mindset. How did you go about doing that? What was influencing your actions to break free from the fixed mindset?
Breaking free from the fixed mindset, I think it's all about reading. Mr. Mogobe, I'm a fan of reading. I love, reading. When I grew up, I really never, I was not an avid reader. But my peers, I remember there was one girl who read a lot, but we are one of those kids who felt reading is not our thing. But later in life, Mr. Mogobe, I realized that successful people are readers, and they say leaders are leaders.
Yes.
Exactly. And there is power in reading. And I remember I started reading, the first book that really changed my life is the Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I know it's more like a cliche now, but there is that power when you find something interesting, especially when it comes to being an employee, being the education system and all that. You view things in a different way. That's the power of reading, because it opens your mind. So what was your
aha moment? What then happened? What was like, an epiphany you experienced to change from being fixed to growth? To growth.
Because I realized that when it comes to life, it's not about the things that we were told when growing up. Get a job, get good grades, get a job, and get a house, get a car, retire. It's no longer about that. It's all about what is it that you can do in this life. You are talented. You have all these gifts, but are you given all these gifts just to get a job, get a car, get a house, retire, and go to the farm? With all this talent, I mean, really, there must be more to that. There must be more to that. And my aha moment, I realized that I want to do something. I want to make an impact. I want to make a change. I want to contribute. I don't want to just live, be employed, and do nothing.
But was there something in your life that sort of pushed you to do that?
Actually, what pushed me to do exactly what I'm doing here today, besides my passion for finance, there are two things. The first one is the one that I experienced when I had a part-time job at a local financial planning firm. At that firm, I will not say the name, but at the firm, we actually taught to make presentations, to teach people about financial education. But I realized that the questions that we're getting from the people, those are like hard questions, like real questions about money issues, that you realize that a lot of Botswana really are in hunger of financial education. They really want their finances to be in order. But when we were in that firm, I realized that the focus was misaligned, because these are the people that they didn't have the resources of the money to pay for these services that we are providing, because the services that we are providing were for the affluent market, for people with funds. But then again, if you say financial education, but you're only focusing on the people with money, you are leaving out the people who really need this financial education. So I realized that there must be a problem. There must be something that I can do. And after the part-time job, together with one of my colleagues, we said, you know what? There is a problem. How do we address this problem? And we said, let's start something. And we started a business at the time. And at the time, the name was not, it was not FinEdu at the time. It was Freedom Peak. It was the four of us. Freedom Peak, yes.
P-E-A-K.
Yes, okay. Freedom Peak. And we, over time, when you start something, Mr. Mogobe, especially with a business, money is not coming in. The only thing that I realized that drives you is passion. But unfortunately, my team members, they ended up going their separate ways, which it happens. It happens when we start something. And with me, I realized that this is something that I really want to do. And it stuck with me.
The four of you ended up alone.
And I ended up alone. And I realized this is something that I have to push through. And I registered a new company altogether, a business, FinEdu. And I realized that this is something that I have to do. And I worked on it. Over time, before registering in 2018, we started 2017, when now we are going, I was going out there to meet people, to do workshops and to partner with other youth organizations, because that was something that I was really passionate about. But then when it comes to children now, you may wonder, okay, you started with financial education in general, right? But then why the transition? Exactly.
Kids, yeah.
Why the transition to children? So to children, it's a personal experience, because when I started, of course it was financial education, but I realized that we have to start from the grassroots level. But for me, it's all about my purpose. Because with my own motherhood experience, Mr. Mogobe, I've lost 3 kids. You may think that I'm young to have lost so many kids, but my first pregnancy was in 2014, and my first pregnancy we lost our child, and it was a full-term 9 months pregnancy. You can imagine when you are expecting, you are looking forward to something, but then at the last hour you lose that something. It's actually thank you. It's something that really. It's traumatizing, especially if you are a first-time parent. But then we tried again, because I was married. We tried again. We got a daughter in 2015. We tried again. We got a daughter in 2017. And I always say that when you are married, marriage issues, you always want to have that balance, like a boy child and a girl child. But then things don't go according to plan. We want to have a boy child, but a boy child is not coming. And then we tried again in 2019. The boy child didn't come, and we lost again, Mr. Mogobe. It was a boy child, and the first pregnancy was a boy child, and even 2019 it was still a boy child. And then in 2020, that was like the turning point altogether. We lost again, and then we wondered, me coming from a Christian
background.
2020, exactly. And coming from a Christian background, you may think, why is this happening to me? Why all this? Is there something that I'm doing that is wrong, or like what is it that I'm doing that is? But you know, Mr. Mogobe. So
you're asking yourself whether or not you're living your purpose. Is that what you're asking yourself?
Exactly, Mr. Mogobe. You know, I realized that our troubles or our situations, the situations that we think that are the worst in our lives, those are our turning points in life. You ask yourself, why am I here? Why is this happening to me? Because the last pregnancy was my turning point, and I realized that I can't be always looking for something. Well, God has blessed me with these children. This is the time to appreciate these children. This is the time to
What do you mean, these children?
The ones that I already had. The 2 ones.
Yeah.
Why not nurture them? Why not appreciate what God has already given? And
instead of struggling to have more.
Exactly. But still, my last pregnancy, I almost lost my life because I lost a lot of blood. And that was the time when the blood donations were not coming through in 2020. And I asked myself, this is something that I have to do this, because whatever my purpose is, it is in relation to children. It is in relation to motherhood. It is in relation to parenting. For me, all this, it was about, when doing financial education for kids, it was all about the gap in the market.
So it hit you all at the same time?
All at the same time.
While we're Mosurubing, during the hard lockdown.
Exactly. And those are turning points. And sometimes in life, I know people tend to give up in their own lives because of the tragedies that they experience. But when you look deep, when you reflect, when you are alone there, why is God giving me a second chance? You find your purpose, Mr. Mogobe. And when you find your purpose, you start being committed. Because I know people say, I'm passionate about this, but are you committed? What drives you? I always say, know your why, and your why has to be strong.
Wow.
When your why is stronger, Mr. Mogobe, even the pandemic will not stop you to doing what you want to do.
After that very touching story, and thanks for sharing so openly, let's talk about one of my favorite, the scarcity mindset versus the abundance mindset.
Okay.
And I guess you stand on the abundance side, but I'll find out in a moment.
Okay. So the abundance and scarcity mindset. You know, I always like starting with the negative first before going to the positive. So the scarcity mindset is a mindset that believes that resources are limited, including money is limited. It's a mindset that is always seeing problems instead of opportunities. And it's a mindset that believes the pie, when somebody has taken a piece of a pie, they've left less for other people. So when somebody succeeds, if Mr. Mogobe succeeds, that means I'm a failure. So it's a mindset that is always about competition, comparing yourself with others, measuring your success by somebody's success. That is the scarcity mindset. But then when you talk about abundance mindset, it's a mindset that believes that opportunities are everywhere. Even during the pandemic, Mr. Mogobe, an abundance mindset believes that there lies an opportunity. You just have to figure out what is the opportunity there. And an abundance mindset is a mindset that believes that the pie is big enough for everyone. The pie is big enough for everyone. If somebody succeeds, Mr. Mogobe, it's an inspiration that me too, I will succeed.
How did you discover that you have an abundance mindset? I can just tell that that's where you stand.
I was going to say, you already know that I stand in the abundance mindset. Okay, the abundance mindset, I think when in economics, we always say resources are limited, are scarce. But then with the abundance mindset, it's all about seeing opportunities. You know, if I'll just give an example. Mr. Mogobe, at FinEdu, we also do programs for children in less privileged communities, like in rural areas, financial education programs. But with rural communities, these are communities that don't have access to internet, access to internet, internet. Yeah. But then you ask yourself, does that mean that you can't do any program reaching out to the children? So when COVID-19 hit, that means we had to pause or to stop altogether the programs that involve physical contact. But then as an enterprise that is focused on talking to people, you know, interacting with people, how do you now interact with people still? How do you continue interacting with people even in the midst of COVID-19? So you ask yourself, I think one thing that maybe we don't do as people, we don't ask ourselves hard questions. We want the easy way out. The moment you start asking yourself hard questions, how do I do this? How do I continue teaching people financial education or teaching kids financial education or money skills, even in the pandemic? How do I do that? And one thing that I did is that starting that radio program. I started a radio program in 2021 because it was a way of reaching out to people in Kalahadi, in Gweta there.
You just walk to RB2 and say, I've written a book, let me go on radio.
That was even before I published the book, remember. It was a vision that I had, like, you know what, this pandemic, I can't reach out to people physically, but there is a radio that can reach out to people in rural areas. How do we do that? We can use the radio platform.
And do you get any feedback?
Yeah, of course. I wrote a letter and a proposal. This is what I want to do, blah, 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 blah. And I said, okay, fine. how many radio stations can I reach? I want a radio station that can reach out to people even in the outskirts. And I mentioned them, and I walked into the radio stations, proposed, say, this is the idea. And I went radio by radio and radio by radio. I explained to them, and every time I got there, they will say, wow, this is very interesting. We never had something like this, because the aim was to educate the parents, to empower parents and teach their own kids, because they are with their kids during the pandemic. They are locked down with their kids, so they have, it's an opportunity to teach your child as a parent. But then we came in to say, okay, we can guide them of how they can do that.
Yeah, when I asked about feedback, I mean from the people you are teaching. Do you ever get any kind of feedback?
The feedback is amazing, Mr. Mogobe. And every time when after the show somebody calls in, I know some people, they don't like calling in during the show, but what normally happens, they will call after the show, because I'll leave my dials and everything, and they'll tell me how the show or the program, maybe the topic that we were discussing at the time, how impactful it was. And so many people actually have started teaching their kids money skills. And
I have a radio program through Shima Monacheng on Gabs FM.
Yes.
That's also been my experience.
Wow.
On Tuesdays we teach on real estate. It's a short stint of 10-15 minutes.
Yes.
But already you are getting a lot of responses.
Exactly.
So radio is very powerful.
It's very powerful. I think we should not underestimate the power of radio. And what I like about radio is that it reaches people even social media may not be able to reach. And those are the people that really need that impact, that education.
More than anybody else.
Exactly.
All right. Fintech and digitization. What is the connection?
You know, this is, when we talk money smart kids, we can't leave out fintech. We can't leave out digitization, because digitization basically is that we are now living in a digital platform where most of the things or most of the services that are now provided in digital platforms. Like, for example, we launched our book virtually using virtual platforms. So that's one way of how we're adapting as FinEdu.
How does that work in practical terms?
The virtual book launch.
I'm just curious because you raised it.
It's you know, at first, my idea was having a conference filled with people, you know, watching me talking about the book, but COVID-19 is here. Let's be real with ourselves. We have to innovate. We have to adapt, because I know it's our comfort zone to say, I know this is the way things have been done, but we can do things differently. And, you know, I had to go on YouTube, Mr. Mogobe, and educate myself what a virtual book launch is. How do you even start having a virtual book launch? And I realized that I don't want to have just an ordinary virtual book launch. I want a virtual book launch that will be well done, that will be excellently done. And I realized that I have to invest. If you want anything to be excellent, you have to invest both your time and your resources. So with a virtual book launch, you have to have a team. I always say success is all about teamwork. There are always people behind the scenes that are working in order for a product like this to be virtually
Tell
launched.
us about it. How do you go about it, the virtual book launch? I want the nitty-gritty, the nuts and bolts.
The nuts and bolts. Okay. The first thing that you also, as an author or as a new author, you have to understand the market. You have to understand the market that you are launching to. Prepare yourself as the author. And get someone who is a good communicator. Because with me, I had to get a guest host. Somebody who will ask questions. Somebody who will be sitting like you. You are sitting there, Mr. Mogobe. Somebody who can help me articulate my points better. And I chose somebody who is very good, well-spoken, Mr. Mompoloki, who did a wonderful job. That is a very important thing, and never overlook that. Get somebody who's skilled, like when it comes to speaking and communication. Then the other thing, get a production team. Get a production team that will advise you. Set up, the kind of setup that you're going to have. First of all, of course, it has to be about you. What is the setup that you imagine? Because I told them this is how I want the setup to be like. And I had to get all the things that I need for the setup to be top notch. Including
this nice little device here.
Exactly, this thing for the book. And then the team, like the production team is also important, Mr. Mogobe. They have to know that you are going to be live. This is not a recording. And live, it means any mistake, the viewer will see that mistake. So they have to cover all the areas, all the corners. So there have to be that preparation before going live. And even going live, do you want it to be just an open, like when you open, it will be just the you talking about the book already, or you want to have maybe a flyer or a video playing before you actually go live. So those are some of the things that you also have to consider. So there's so many things that you have to consider, but my take is that have a team. You talk to your guest host or the person that you arrange questions. You see, okay, fine, these are the questions that we are going to ask. Are they okay? But when it comes to the questions, it has to flow. And it's not about cramming, okay, I'm going to say this, I'm not going to say that. That person has to be able now to guide you, and then you just flow. So,
so, all right, so we've covered fintech, financial technology, right? Fintech.
Yes, but we haven't covered the fintech part. I think we're more on the digitization.
Okay, let's talk fintech.
Fintech. So fintech basically is the new technology that is meant to improve the delivery and use of financial services, like the mobile payments, how you invest, how you save. So the kind of technology, normally you'll find it, the banking sector is the one that is more into financial technology.
Apps
and the application and everything. And I know even other sectors that are adopting this, the financial technology, how to make payments for the products and services online and all that. So fintech basically is meant to make is meant for convenience, and also it lowers the cost of transaction, because you find that the cost that as a consumer, the travel, you have to travel to go to the bank, you have to, or even the paperwork. I mean, the paperwork is for on the side of the bank. Like they've reduced the paperwork that you have to do. So when the platforms now that are digital, even the cost is less. So if the cost is less in the bank side, they will reduce the cost also that you have to bear as a consumer.
Yeah.
So you know.
So is it something your company teaches or encourages? Fintech?
We encourage fintech, because what we're planning to do also on our side is also to find a way of how we can innovate and also tap into financial technology. How can we also bring products that children can also use, like the applications? How can they save using those applications? So those are some of the things that even as an enterprise, you have to think about those lines, because we have to keep on adapting. And the other thing that we also teach or advise also is on the side that even technology is a good thing, but also we have to bear in mind the risks that comes with new technology. We have to teach kids about identity fraud, where now you share your identity on the internet. You have to do your due diligence. You have to do your research. And we know that there are a lot of products, investment products or investment schemes that are being marketed online, that these are, you can make $1 million from these. You can, those are some of the things that we...
Too many scams, you mean?
Too many scams, you know. So those are some, that is kind of education that we also have to teach our kids about.
All right. Now, I want you to envision your company 5, 10, 20 years down the line, as though you have a crystal ball, and tell us what is the plan, what is the long-term vision? Okay.
The long-term vision of FinEdu is to be an all-in-one financial education center, not only for kids, but also for individuals, where you can walk in, but you get all the financial education, financial empowerment that you can get through books, through mobile applications, even financial services, because we want to offer also some of the financial services that we will find that they are not offered to the marginalized groups, because for us it's all about inclusion. It's all about inclusion. So for us, our focus is all about inclusion. So in 10 years time, we see FinEdu reaching out to the international market, reaching out to Africa, especially particularly at the African market, where now we see them accessing our products, them accessing the applications, the mobile applications that we'll have, that will empower them to become financially independent, financially aware of things that they're supposed to use, or to empower themselves to become people with growth mindset, abundance mindset.
Is fintech thinking of creating multimillionaires and billionaires, or you're not that ambitious?
We are. We are. Our aim is to have that cream of children that will think beyond. The children who can become your next Elon Musk, who don't only think about Botswana, who not only think about the small things, but challenges themselves to do great things, to do bigger things that can change the world. And what we normally, our vision is that we don't want kids who will think about money first, but children who will think about changing something
Society.
or impacting. Because because people always admire billionaires, they admire the money side of things, but they don't admire the hunger to bring something impactful, disrupting in the market. They have to also admire that tenacity, that resilience. That's something that we really want to instill in our children. I want to teach them.
Okay. This is your chance to throw a question at me, if you have one.
Actually, I do. I want to know Mr. Mogobe's view when it comes to parenting, and maybe just share how your childhood maybe has shaped you to become the serial entrepreneur and investor, a multi-skilled lawyer, not only just a lawyer, but all this.
Yeah, I think my mother was very influential, because she used to pinch me when I wasn't studying. I remember it got so bad that my thighs were turning blue at some point when I was doing standard 4. I had just been staying with my grandparents, and I started staying with my mother. And that pinching, it went on for some time, and I came to a point where I decided enough of this. Either my thighs turn blue or gangrene or something, or I change. So I decided to change, and I resolved way back then. I was little, but I reserved from today, I'm either going to be number 1 or number 2 at everything that I endeavor to do.
Wow, excellent spirit.
And my prayers were answered. I changed my whole attitude.
Wow.
I worked ferociously. I fought for position 1, and I fought for top. Of course, what I discovered is when I got to the science students, there were many people like me, and I could not believe it when I started getting to positions. There was a time when I was so depressed getting to position 13 and 17, because all of a sudden they put the creme de la creme together, and I could not believe there are people who are smarter than me. So I had to adjust to that, and then when I went to law school, I carried on. I still pushed to be in the top to this day. So I think it was my mother's influence, because she was also entrepreneurial. Although she was a civil servant, she was also active. She had Samausu, an old Naledi, and she had another sewing company called Ginger in Ginger.
Wow.
So I could see when I was growing up what she was doing. But in addition to that, my dad, insofar as discipline, on the discipline side, because she was a tough disciplinarian.
Wow.
You come late when the sun has set, he administers a beating. He doesn't care. One time I was delayed at the library. He didn't care. I said, but I was studying. Go down. You know the law. You know the rules.
Wow.
So that those kind of things really impacted me from early childhood.
Wow.
And thank God that we've been able to maintain that sort of spirit, that tenaciousness. Yeah. Now we've come to the end of our conversation together. I want you to look at that camera. You see that one there? And tell those people, leave them with words of inspiration, words of upliftment, things that they'll remember you by.
Okay. Dear viewer, if you are a parent, or even if you have children under your care that may not be your biological children, I just want to encourage you that the best time to start investing in your child is now, when they're still young. Because when you invest in them, when an investment, I mean educating them, because education is a way of investing. So when you invest them while they're still young, they're able to carry that forward. And as Mr. Mogobe has already said, that education that you get from a younger age, not only what you tell them, but also what you do. Also be mindful of what you do, your attitude towards investing, your attitude towards money, your attitude towards spending, your behavior. So it all starts with you being aware, being cautious of the things that you do when you are around your children. So when you talk education, it's not only the education that you tell them what to do and not to do, but also how you are transferring those skills, those attitudes to your children. So the best time to start is now, and make sure that you stick to the growth mindset, the abundance mindset, instill those mindset into your children. And also, I want to also encourage parents that allow your child to explore, allow your child to dream, don't limit your child. And again, when you have a child, don't try to live your dreams through your children, because I know that as parents we have aspiration for our children, but allow your child to explore, to become themselves, that they live their purpose fully. Because when they live their purpose fully, they are able to live happy, successful, and fulfilled life. There is enjoyment in living your purpose and doing your purpose and doing something that earns you enough money or make you a billionaire, but still enjoy doing that. Yes. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, how do people get in touch with you? Somebody may want to use the services of your company or may want to reach you. Tell them how they reach you. Okay,
if you want our products here, you can reach us at our WhatsApp business line, 74222393, or you can contact us via our social media platforms. On Facebook is Raising Money Smart Kids. You can also contact us through FinEdu page. On Twitter is FinEdu, and on LinkedIn you can link up with myself if you would like to partner, because we are also looking for partners who are interested in reaching out to children in rural communities who would make use of these resources, the piggy banks and the money planners. We're looking for individuals and companies that are willing to partner with us to extend these beautiful resources to them, and FinEdu will definitely do free education. Thank you.
Finally, tell them why you've subscribed to Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom and why you believe they should subscribe.
Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom is indeed full of wisdom, because there is a lot of learning. It's a platform that is packaged for an entrepreneur, it's packaged for an intrapreneur, because you can be employed but still have that entrepreneurial mindset. So it's not only a platform for entrepreneurs, because I know that people may mistake it to be that, but even if you are an employee, you want to excel in your own job or in your own workplace, you want to become a solution provider, Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom is a place to be. If you want to be an investor, real estate investing, there's so much to learn, so much wisdom. And I'm a proud subscriber, and I encourage you to subscribe and to make the nuggets of wisdom grow even beyond limits. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. You've been a wonderful guest. You've shared so generously. We're so enriched by your presence and your wisdom. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mogobe.